here's Brody Brazil.
Okay, so this is a little 2 for Tuesday. As in 2 separate videos I'll be putting out on this day after the SB509 hearing in Carson City and Las Vegas, yes, the state of Nevada. 2 videos because of this. Number 1, this video, which you're about to watch, I'll be recapping some of the bigger moments and clips and highlights, if you will. We'll go over those play and pause style. But I'll also have a video later on that just kind of goes into further detail of the biggest elements, what I think they mean, and ultimately I will give a gut instinct in the other video, so make sure you check that one out. But we'll begin with this. Yeah, it was Memorial Day, 6.5 hours for this hearing. I understand you probably didn't see all of it, maybe any of it. So here are some of the interesting parts. This is Jeremy Aguero. He represents the A's, not really an employee, but working for them, presenting like he just did here for more than an hour, all the details of SB509, what they'll be asking for. Watch how he concludes, and then watch how things proceed right after that.
Members may have.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate that. And before we go any further, Golden Knights 2-0.
So wait a second. Like all of this on a holiday, right, for 6.5 hours at the same time that Las Vegas's hockey team is playing a Game 6 of the Western Final to go to the Stanley Cup Final. A huge moment in Las Vegas sports history, and this is also going on at the same time. Whether that plays a positive or a negative factor for anything, I'm not here to say, but what interesting and amazing timing. The Senator Dondero Loop here mentions that it's a 2-0 score. Watch this.
Hey!
3-0 over Dallas.
You see what happens? You see what happens?
Nobody's paying attention.
Did you hear that? Nobody's paying attention? A joke, but
I can't move that fast, you
this is $380 million of public money going on right now.
guys.
This is the one and only hearing they'll have on SB 509. This was during the critical part, and it's a 2-0 Golden Knights lead.
It's all good. We're up. That's the story. All right. But we were listening to you, Mr. Aguero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Go Knights.
I was listening to you.
I see that iPad on your desk there, on your console.
I missed the last score.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, I've got 6 different clips here. I actually don't even know the order, so let's see what this one's all about.
Woman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too have pages of questions.
All right, this is Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. She is very much in opposition of SB 509. Just watch this.
So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm at a no, almost a hell no.
Wow.
So y'all have to get me to a yes, okay?
That's honesty.
In some areas of this bill, there's language that was in the Raiders deal that they received. In other areas, vastly different.
That's actually a tremendous observation. SB 1 from 2016, the special session, versus SB 509 here in 2023. A lot of it is literally cut and paste from all the Tourism Innovation Act stuff, but then the actual details are so different. So misleading in a sense that, it looks the same. But in reality, there are parts that, as she says here, looks way different. And I've been thinking about that, but she said it, and that's a tremendous observation.
Than what the Raiders had. The Raiders came to this state with a huge fan base. We had a lot of people that would make the travel to California to see the Raiders. I don't see that happening for the A's. Their average attendance is below 9,000 per game. So tell me how you got to the number that you're thinking are going to come here. I know people come to Vegas, right? But you want to come to see either your team playing, but if they're playing someone you don't like, you don't make that extra expense. So how did you get to that calculation? Because even in they had the lowest attendance in 2022. They were under 8,000 in 2022. So how did you get to that attendance number? And that's what you're basing the income coming into the state on.
And again, this is following an hour-long presentation of all these numbers and projections and promises, and so that's what is in question here.
Chairwoman Monroe Moreno, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, their attendance is abysmal now.
Correct. We won't really go much into detail, but
In Oakland. I don't think there's any illusion. I don't think we should sugarcoat that in any way, shape, or form. You're 100% right. So that is exactly why I think the A's are looking to find a new home. They want to bring that their fan base. They want to create new opportunities, create a new venue.
it's kind of a knock against the fan base in Oakland of attendance. It's really pointing a finger right there.
We can look around a number of sports. I think about what happened in Cleveland. I think about what happened in Atlanta with what they developed. By building a new ballpark and by bringing a new reason, they stimulated increased activity for those facilities. We think about what we're doing right now for sports that are coming to Las Vegas. You bring your sporting event to Las Vegas, more people are going to attend that sporting event. And you're right.
Is that true, though? You bring it to Las Vegas and more people are going to attend. Is that for sure?
No doubt about it that the Las Vegas Raiders are an incredible success story for us in terms of not only creating fandom, but also bringing folks from out of town.
It's football, though. Apples and oranges, 8 Sundays a week. Maybe that gets discussed here. I can't remember. That was brought up at some point, but different analogy here.
But I don't think we want to dismiss what the Golden Knights have been able to do, right? As much as we would like to believe that every person sitting there cheering in that arena are from Las Vegas, many of them are not, right? There's lots of folks that come from out of town. As a matter of fact, when you talk to some of the hotel operators in and around that, there's lots of folks that come into town just because the event took place and may not even go to the event.
Baseball, different than hockey and football, and honestly, even different than basketball.
We've seen it with boxing. We've seen it with UFC. We've seen it.
Again, those are all one-off events. Those are not a season of 81 home dates over, 6 months. The concentration just isn't there for any of those other events.
In other areas, the hope is that we'll see it here as well. As I mentioned to Speaker Yeager, the expectation here is not that the A's are going to be the highest attended baseball team anywhere in Major League Baseball. The hope here is that they will be, the expectation, I should say here, is that they will be at the 50th percentile relative to that. Now, they are building a facility around that relative size.
30,000. But the 50th percentile of baseball attendance, I don't have the numbers right here, but just knowing generally, that would put them at 19, 20 something thousand. That's 10,000 empty seats.
I think that is a very reasonable expectation, and the work that's been done by CSL, who's probably the foremost expert in these analysis anywhere in the United States, reviewed by Goldman Sachs, reviewed by Hobbs, Ong and Associates, reviewed by PFM, all of which you went through those exercises, felt like the assumptions that were driving that model were reasonable.
Name dropping.
I agree. I do think they're reasonable. The second half of your question really asks, can we really expect people to get on a plane or get in a car and come and see their team play? And I don't know whether the A's are going to have the ability. They've got a lot of work to do.
At least he's honest.
But I would also suggest that there's
work to do, in getting a more competitive team, but a large part of that, right, is spending up to the league average in salary, and of which they're $100 million below it right now.
an alignment in interest here, right? They are putting $1.1 billion into this facility and probably going to cost them more than that when you think about the cost of moving a team and all the things that are out there. I mean, they have a pretty strong incentive to make sure that they're putting a quality product on the field.
Cost of moving a team. That was, I thought that maybe there's more on this later, the relocation fee. I thought that was waived.
And what I can tell you from the models that I've looked at and the elements that are there, the assumptions that they're making in terms of increasing their investment in the team are substantial. Beyond that, there's also been changes in Major League Baseball that I think are important. And some of those the commissioner has talked about in terms of improving the game and making it more spectator-friendly.
Pace of play is going to draw more fans in Las Vegas.
All those type of things. But I think beyond that, the change to the schedule is what may very well benefit our community more than anything else.
And there is a point to that, definitely to be made, that you're gathering teams from across the league now instead of just mostly the AL West and the American League.
The schedule has been changed such that every team plays every other team at home every other year. Instead of everybody playing the folks in their conference, their division, multiple times, the A's will play the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox at home at least every other year.
But I mean, I think he's actually talking more about the National League side. They opened up the National League side so that it's not the interleague format of yesteryear, meaning you'll get more of the Phillies and Reds and Mets and Atlanta. But again, I understand the point. The actual impact it'll have, I don't know.
And the draw that comes with those other fans from those other teams, willingness to come in, I think is significant. You combine that with survey data that have said that's exactly what they're saying they're willing to do. It seems reasonable to expect that the A's will be able to hit those numbers, and that if they're even close to what other sports teams have been able to do and other events have been able to do when they come to Las Vegas, I think those incremental visitation numbers are a fair assessment of what we think can actually be achieved.
And Chairman Moreno, if I could just add, I think it's an important question.
This is Steve Hill. He's, I believe, the CEO of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. I forget there's a lot of letters in there, but that's his position. By the way, Jeremy and Steve are the two representatives here, basically, of the A's. Like, they're not employed directly by the A's. Jeremy's paid by them. I don't know Steve's financial connection or incentive, but obviously he is, here on behalf of the A's. And that's who's representing the A's here. It's those two.
There's kind of two pieces to the answer, too, and Jeremy has dealt with both of them, but I want to just kind of point out the separation. One is the revenue that will be generated by attendees at the game that will go to pay off the bonds. And it's why that coverage ratio is 2 times what is necessary in order to pay off those bonds. So in order to pay the bonds off, that has been taken into consideration. That safety has been built into this proposal.
Just in case the numbers aren't anywhere near projected.
On the benefit to both state and local governments that, is $53 million a year, that's solely based on those 405,000 visitors who will come to Vegas because of the events.
And that's the promised number, 405,000 visitors specifically coming per year to come see an A's game. Not to go do other stuff primarily, but primarily to go see the A's play a game. It's a large number.
So if we get 7,500 people a game, we're there. That have come because of the game in the stadium.
But that seems like a lot. 7,500 people from out of town per game, specifically to go see the A's. They didn't come to see the Blue Man Group or Tiesto or David Copperfield or whatever. Cirque du Soleil, they came specifically for the A's. 7,500 per game, 81 times. That's a lot.
So that's what that projection is. So it's kind of two different answers to that important question.
Thank you, and I appreciate the answer. But when we talk about the Golden Knights, the Raiders, and this stadium, the Golden Knights didn't cost the taxpayers a dime.
100% true. Their ownership financed the expansion fee with the NHL, financed T-Mobile Arena entirely privately, and there's more to it here.
Right? They came here, and they came at a time where we were hurting as a state.
There was also the tragic country music festival shooting right before the Golden Knights debuted.
And they became Nevada's team, Vegas's team. Didn't cost us a dime. This is different. So I think it's kind of apples and oranges in that comparison. In Section 23 of the bill, with the community benefits agreement, the details of the agreement are not in legislation, which is probably good because we may have to make adjustments along the line. But what teeth does that agreement have? And what did the A's owners do for the community in Oakland? Because I got to tell you, as my colleague said, we're getting emails, but I got family that live in the Oakland area. They hate the A's. They do not feel that the A's have done enough for their community. So what investments did they make in Oakland for the community that they'll replicate here or even do much better, that if they come here, Nevadans don't feel the way Californians, Oakland, Vallejo folks feel about the team now? What teeth will this have that we'll be able to hold them to it?
Chairman Moreno, Steve Hill, that will need to be built into that community benefit agreement as we work through that process in a public setting.
It's hard to believe, though, that doesn't exist already, that wouldn't be something, as icing on the cake. If you were the A's and you wanted to really smooth all this over, that you wouldn't have already kind of put that cookie out on the plate.
As I mentioned earlier, that was just not the structure under the Raiders deal. So that will have to be a part of that conversation that we'll have over the next year. I think what the A's are willing to do in the community is really a question that we would need to ask them. I don't feel like I can speak for them on that subject right now.
Yeah, and I wish the answer to that could have happened right then and there, but it didn't.
And I get 3 questions since I'm her vice chair.
She seems like she might have more than 3.
Page 18 of your PowerPoint, when you look at the public dollars that are going in, the size of the stadium, we're asking Nevadans to put in a huge amount for one of the smallest stadiums. Why the huge cost for a much smaller stadium?
And, that's one of the biggest 4 arguments of SB509 is that, this is one of the largest costing MLB ballparks, but at one of the lowest public contribution percentages. But to her point, why are all the numbers so inflated? Why is the numbers among the highest when the stadium attendance and capacity and building size, 9 acres, 30,000 seats, why is that among the lowest?
Than other states.
Madam Vice Chair, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, some of it just has to do with time, right? Things are more expensive now than they were before. And so that's some of the costs associated. They're also building what is a phenomenal asset as well. And so we, the state of Nevada, are requiring a very high standard in terms of the facility that's to be constructed. Combination of both that cost and that time is what you're looking at here.
Thank you, and I do get one more.
Going for 4.
The $1.1 million that the A's are putting up, is that simply for the payment of the land, or are there other infrastructure improvements that will come along with that?
Madam Vice Chair, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, I think you meant $1.1 billion. That is for the cost of the construction of the physical asset. That does not include the cost of land acquisition.
Now, there might be some fees and things associated with land acquisition, but I thought that the Tropicana site of 9 acres was entirely free. Not to mention it comes with $175 million of gift money from GLPI. So the land acquisition here, like at the Wild Wild West site, the A's were going to pay for that. I think even at Howard Terminal in Oakland, the A's were on the hook to pay some amount to the Port of Oakland for acquiring the land. But this one's free, so I don't know what a land... I don't know, and maybe there's... Jeremy probably would, and I wish that were more detailed here. What land acquisition?
That does not include the cost of the relocation of the actual team itself.
Now, are we talking the moving trucks, or are we talking about a relocation fee from MLB?
To Las Vegas.
And that relocation fee is?
Well, she's going straight in on what MLB would charge.
The relocation fee, the Commissioner of Baseball has at least suggested that if the state of Nevada can get a public-private partnership that is acceptable to Major League Baseball, to everyone, that the relocation fee that would be traditionally provided from a team moving from one location to another would potentially be waived. They have
Potentially be waived. I thought Rob Manfred at the end of last year said, if the A's move to Las Vegas and everything is satisfactory, we will. I don't know that that was a potential in his words. I think that was a certainty. Let me rewind the tape here for a second.
Moving from one location to another.
There's no tape, by the way. I'm just old school.
Would potentially be waived. They have not said that yet. They're talking about meeting next month, and I think that's certainly something that we all should hope for.
Hope? I mean, $300 million, first off.
But that's only the relocation fee that's charged by Major League Baseball, right? They also have to move a business from California to Nevada, and so there will be some cost associated with that, and that's really what I was alluding to.
But you didn't say what that relocation fee is.
I'll tell you, when I get that question from time to time in terms of what the relocation fee would be.
It was expected to be $500 million. It's like $2 billion for expansion, $500 million for relocation. That's what everybody's been operating on here.
The best ballpark numbers that I've received is something on the order of $300 million is the relocation fee. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to hide the ball with you, Madam Vice Chair.
So, I mean, that's interesting on two fronts here. Number one, it's a different amount than anybody expected, but it's also not a certainty. And if the A's are dramatically trying to get this $380 million from the state of Nevada and from Clark County, if that's like a deal breaker here for this, right, the public money, what's going to happen if MLB owners decide, you know what, we do need $300 million of a relocation fee? The commissioner said it, and we didn't agree with it as the core of 29 other owners. How much of a wrench does that throw in these plans? Like, that is, the fact that that's unknown is a pretty significant deal. I think that's the end of this clip.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And with that,
All right, I think we're done with that clip. Okay. I think I know what's about to happen here.
It's worthwhile for us to consider that this is certainly one option that comes with its own set of economic development. And
SB509. So the context here, you know, the idea of the Tropicana site. We can do this. We can do SB509. We can give public money. We can build a ballpark on this site. Or, like, Bally's is a private entity. They could tear it down and build something up all on their own without any public help, and the county and the state will still get tax money from all of that. So that is what is being brought up here.
And there's this proposed public investment, but there could also, I think, be any other development idea for this site, if this were not in play, would likely probably bring in as much or more than the Tropicana does in its current state. It's kind of the A's of the Strip.
I've never heard it put that way. Watch this reaction.
So I just wanted to
make
put
sure
that out there.
we stay respectful in this committee.
Order in the court. Okay, we got it. I'm sorry. Let me rewind this just a little bit here. Like, putting the Tropicana and the A's both in the same really negative light.
It's kind of the A's of the Strip. So
you don't need me to explain that one. Trust me, you don't need me to explain the old Tropicana. Honestly, I will say this: the Coliseum and the Tropicana have something in common. Way outdated, and if the A's get what they want here, both are going to be leveled because of their departure.
I just wanted to
Make
put
sure
that out there.
we stay respectful in this committee.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. I apologize.
Do you really, though? Do you really?
But again, I would like to understand
Sorry, not sorry.
what revenues we're losing on the site that we might be able to bring in with an alternative proposal.
I mean, and that's a really fair question, right? Like, what are we not doing here instead of doing this? And you're asking the people who want to do SB509. So I don't know that, truthfully, they can say, well, here's the exact counterpoint to our point. They're not going to say that. But the fact that it's being brought up, right, that's the question in itself. That's
Treasurer Conine, for the record, and
this is the treasurer. Watch, he's got to throw his 2 cents in.
that was an excellent joke. The Assemblyman,
Okay, I think that's the end of that clip. And by the way, you're want to say, well, what did he go on to say? If it was relevant, if it had a real good point or a real good answer to that, or if it had, I think he went on to say it's confusing, basically. The full live stream, by the way, you can check it out on my channel. If you want to see, these are the bits and pieces, but I'm telling you, there was nothing after that noteworthy of keeping here in our conversation.
Chair.
Certainly, as long as you have
This is Assemblyman Yeager. He's been very entrenched in this process so far, has been quoted in some of the press releases, just saying that the legislature will do its diligent job in researching this. And again, researching it over the course of one hearing of a couple hours on one day, a holiday. Yeah.
We're right.
So, as my colleague mentioned, we're obviously getting a lot of communication about this proposal. And candidly, I think a lot of that communication is coming from the Oakland area.
You think? And there you go. For those of you watching from Northern California and you're wondering, can they hear us? There you go.
Some of it's coming from Las Vegas as well, but it's no secret that the team's not very good right now, right? And as a pretty long-suffering Tigers fan, I can appreciate that. But so I guess here's my question: in the projections about visitation, obviously with a site that's anticipated to be on the Las Vegas Strip, you're going to naturally get folks who are in town and just maybe didn't know there was a baseball stadium there. They check the schedule. They see there's a home game. They're going to walk across the street, go to the game. I think you have some...
That's true. That's very true. By the way, I don't mean to cut him off, but those types of visitors, which I think would be frequent, like, hey, we're here, the timing works, let's go to a game. But remember, those people are not part of the 405,000 that came there specifically to do this. They're here for something else. This is a sideshow.
Pretty hardcore baseball fans who will travel to a series in Las Vegas, although it is a summertime and it's hot, so maybe not the best time to be here, but I think you'll get some of that.
I've said that before. Like, this is the time where hotel room rates, like the occupancy stays up because the room rates are so low in July and August for Las Vegas for obvious reasons.
But so my question really is, to build up that kind of local fan base that we're talking about, the kind of fan base we have with the Knights, because they've been wildly successful and are
unreal successful, and congratulations to them. But like all the years of existence, they've only missed the playoffs once, and now they're about to be in their second Stanley Cup final already.
The verge of going back to the Stanley Cup.
Which they did.
If they hadn't been that successful, I don't know that we would sell out T-Mobile.
I've been saying that all along. Oh my gosh, this is somebody who is so deep, so entrenched in Las Vegas and Nevada, and this is not a knock. This is just to say that what they've done, and to instantly expect that from the Raiders or the A's or the Las Vegas Aces or any other team, like it doesn't happen this way usually. And the NHL's different because of the way the expansion draft is, and you get to draft a pretty good team to start with. The Kraken did it too. Let me rewind this and give the full fair statement here. But that needs to be, and he's a sports guy, so he gets this.
If they hadn't been that successful, I don't know that we would sell out T-Mobile. I don't know that we would have that kind of a fan base. And I'm not asking you to speak for the team itself, because I think that's a question they have to answer to the satisfaction of committee members. Are they going to invest?
And I don't know when we'll see that question or answer, but I agree.
In putting a winning product on the field. I don't know that that's a question for you, but my question for you is how much of your projections about visitation, about money that's going to be generated is dependent on Las Vegas locals taking the trip over to the Tropicana site and going to the game there, because I think, in my mind, those two things are related. There has to be a competitive, winning team to draw folks to the Las Vegas Strip who are locals. There's infrastructure needs as well. But I guess if you could kind of talk about that, is that baked into the projections in some way?
And I think I already know the answer. I mean, I might have heard this yesterday, but I think it's 70-30, 70% locals, 30% tourists. But to Assemblyman Yeager's point here, like, you can't just say, well, this is something tourists are going to see and we're aiming all of our hopes on that and our projections on that. Like, you have to find a way to cater to the traditional sports market, which would be one of the smallest. It would be the smallest market in Major League Baseball, but you have to find a way to cater to your locals first.
Speaker Yeager, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, the answer to your question is yes, right? About 70%
Bingo.
of the folks we expect to be in the seats are locals, right? And they're going to have to put an outstanding product. And they can come and talk about their history and their
The A's can come talk about their history,
wins and how many times they've made the playoffs in the last few years. And
which is definitely, let's look at the 2000s. They've been in the postseason a lot. I mean, the Angels would love to have the A's regular seasons and postseason appearances.
all of those type of things. They're probably the ones that are going to need to do that.
I mean, they'll need to do that. But I don't know. Like, this hearing is now come and gone. This is the first, last, and only time it'll be heard like this publicly.
Speaker Yeager, from an economic projection standpoint, I think what I said early on in my presentation is probably germane here, and that is, with the level of attendance that we are currently estimating, it will put them at the 50th percentile for baseball teams throughout the United States.
But I mean, it's what you're projecting, but how do you assure that projection? How do you, like, we know how sports works. Like, winning breeds fan base, breeds attendance. Yeah.
I feel pretty comfortable with those estimates, given all of the data that we have, that they can, I would like to believe, be better than average, but at least be average relative to attendance.
Is that my two, Chair? Do I get another one?
Oh, Speaker, you get another.
Oh, but I guess that's the end of the clip right there. Okay, are we back at the beginning? I don't think so here. No.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just have one.
Okay, Senator Harris here, and I believe this was towards the end of the official hearing before public commentary and all that stuff. Senator Harris had some really good pointed questions this entire time.
If this plan was not approved, is it the A's plan B to stay in Oakland?
Senator Harris, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, they've never indicated as such. They obviously, this is the plan that they're looking to be able to accomplish, but it's never been discussed or stated that way.
Okay, I get it. Like, you're focusing on one thing, and you've officially said you've turned your back on Oakland, but I appreciate the question. I think there's a follow-up here. Maybe.
Just a quick clarification. So is that you don't know, or you think that their plan is to come to Las Vegas no matter what?
This is something everybody's interested in. Las Vegans, people in Oakland.
No, that's I'm sorry, Senator Harris, for the record, Jeremy Aguero. I don't know. Okay. Right now, they're working hard with Major League Baseball and all the constituents that have worked with this on a plan. If this plan doesn't work, they've got to start developing a new plan.
Senator Harris, Steve Hill, I may be able to have a little more objective answer on this.
Basically, I can speak a little bit more freely, I think, is the interpretation there.
If this agreement does not go through, they will look for other cities to move to. They will not decide to stay, even though this does not go through.
Okay, so the interpretation there, they will look for other cities. Is he referring to other cities than Las Vegas, which might include Oakland, but also might include Orlando, which might include Salt Lake City, which might include Portland? I got to rewind this. This was a clip and a quote that I think a lot of people, I don't want to say they didn't take it too far, but it's hard to really interpret.
Senator Harris, Steve Hill, I may be able to have a little more objective answer on this.
Again, just try and digest the quote here. Is it they'll look for other cities than Las Vegas or other cities than Oakland?
If this agreement does not go through, they will look for other cities to move to. They will not decide to stay even though this does not go through.
Other cities to move to. Maybe that's the clear part. Maybe that's the part I wasn't. They will look for other cities to move to. Not an A's employee, obviously very much in the know and on the inside of everything that's been discussed. Speaking for them, but I think he flat out said, I'm going to speak honestly here about this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, that might be the-
And I have a couple comments or questions, and one of them's to follow up with that.
I think that's the end of the clip.
It was my understanding.
Yep, that's the end of the clip. Okay, are we at the last one here?
The $1.1 million that the A's are putting up, is that simply for the payment of the land, or are there other
Yeah,
infrastructure?
that's the relocation clip. So
We have
think we're at the
quite
end
a few
here.
people that have questions, and I believe we'll start with
Nope, that's the end. Okay, you know what? I've gone through all my clips. I apologize. I was a little bit disoriented there. But there you go. Make sure you check out, you've watched this all the way to the end, which I appreciate. Make sure you check out my other video, which has the gut instincts and has the in-depth kind of analysis to some of the bigger points. But again, if you missed it yesterday, those were some of the highlights of what happened. And you should also check out the full presentation of SB509. That's at the very beginning of the meeting. So, hey, thumbs up on this video since you made it here all the way to the end. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel so that I can see you next time.